And continuing our little love in here, this
Mhm.
was a movie that we had intended to watch a few weeks back, and we rushed out to watch before it left Netflix.
Yes.
Uncle Buck, one of our beloved childhood movies.
Yes. Yeah. And if my memory is correct, this was one of the first movies I saw in the theater. Um, I think it came out in '89. Um,
That sounds, yeah, I think so.
yeah. So
Uncle
this
Buck
was one of the first
movie.
movies I saw in the theater, and I kind of vaguely remember going to see it with my mom and my brother.
Boy, there must have been all sorts of humor in this movie that just sailed over your head.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So a few weeks back, we reviewed the different John Candy movie. What was that one called again?
Summer Rental.
Summer Rental. Thank you. I kept wanting to say Vacation, but I know that that is right, but also wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. John Candy's in Vacation, but he's not the main, yeah, character.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Uh, so what I will say about this one, just right off the bat, is this is so much the better movie,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and I'm kind of glad that we watched Summer Rental before this one because it just made this one all the sweeter.
yeah. Um, and will say too. Summer Rental was in '85. This was '89, and you kind of saw how much weight John Candy put on in that 4 year period.
Yeah, he was kind of huge by that point.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big guy in Summer Rental, but not as big as he was in this movie. But um, yeah. I mean, and this is of course a John Hughes movie, and uh, whenever John Candy and John Hughes would collaborate, it was always magic. Whether it was this movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the Great Outdoors. Um, they just they got each other.
Right. In John Candy as a comedic actor and even dramatic actor had certain strengths, and this movie is
Mhm.
custom built to take advantage of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. You could tell that Hughes wrote this movie specifically for
Uh,
John Candy.
Actually, would it surprise you to know
uh,
that Danny DeVito, of all people, was the first choice?
oh really?
Uh,
Huh.
or at least he was in contention at one point, according to what I looked up about this.
He would not have worked.
No, nowhere near as well. Because here's the thing: like Danny DeVito as an actor, he also, well, actually, it's kind of, so we talked about the Penguin earlier, and while his
Yeah.
Penguin was a very different Penguin, there's a reason that Danny DeVito was cast as the Penguin. He is
Yeah.
a he's a little guy who has this he has a certain charisma about him, but he feels like a sneaky little shit. I don't know.
Yes.
I was just deciding. Do I want to hurt us in the algorithm? Wait, no, we aren't monetized anyway. Moving
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But,
Well, yeah, and especially his character in Twins.
right, yeah, Twins is a recent example. Like I can't think of any movie I've seen with Danny DeVito where he actually comes off as wholesome, except for like, okay, fine, I guess I have to be wholesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Where John Candy had this energy where even when he was angry, he had this, well, uncle energy. He had this fatherly energy. He had this he felt like a big teddy bear that just would occasionally explode. It's
Yeah.
like where like with Danny DeVito in this role, you would have kept thinking, when is he gonna like touch the kids or something?
Yeah.
Like with this one's like, okay, he's got his rough spots, but I can see why somebody would even sort of think about trusting him with the kids.
Mhm. Yeah, and uh yeah, and I guess we should get to the plot of the movie.
Right. It
So we meet at the beginning of the movie. We meet the Russell family, who are living in suburban Chicago. They've just moved from Indianapolis, much to the teenage daughter's chagrin, Tia. And yeah, she is a bitch in this movie. At the beginning of the movie.
in our chats together, I distinctly used the C word to describe her because she is awful.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, and then we also meet Miles, who's played by pre-Home Alone Macaulay Culkin, and then Maisie is the younger daughter, and they kind of have this weird, the typical sibling dynamic, and then we meet the parents, and of course there's a lot of tension between the teenage daughter and the mom, because I guess it's the mom's job, is why they moved to Chicago.
Right. The
Mm.
daughter's resentful that she had to leave all of her friends behind, that she's often left to watch the kids while the mom works. And
Yeah, yeah.
then the mom's dad has a stroke. Was it no, heart attack? Heart
Heart
attack.
attack. Yeah, yeah, and then we meet Buck Russell, and that's John Candy, and he's probably one of the laziest guys ever.
Uh, he's a complete degenerate.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, actually, okay, not a complete degenerate because there's no indication that he's like a poon hound or anything like that anymore. At
no,
least not anymore. Maybe he did say at one point that he used to be, but maybe he kind of ate himself out of that.
yeah, yeah. But well, I mean, he does have a steady girlfriend,
That's
even though
true,
they have a their relationship's very contentious, but
right? Because yeah, the guy basically doesn't work. He gets by on gambling.
yeah. And after the mom, the Mrs. Russell, her father has a heart attack, and this is like in the middle of the night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're trying to figure out, like, who can watch the kids while they're away, and they're going through all of these people, and of course the last person they think of is Buck.
Right, his brother Buck,
Yeah.
and a lot of the comedy in this movie is John Candy either by himself or with another character just rattling off like completely disconnected nonsense. Like
Yeah.
he's driving in there. Ah, gee, what he has got to be what 9 by now? Kids, they got to be at least 4.
Yeah. Yeah, and he had a hard time remembering the names of the two youngest kids.
It's like like Molly and Sarah, Molly and
Yeah, yeah,
um. So he comes in and he is basically a wrecking ball to their lives.
yeah, yeah. Because he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to make breakfast
No.
for and
Well, to be fair, he successfully made them breakfast, and the whiny little snots were like, he put onions in the eggs.
yeah,
Like I put onions in the eggs. That's delicious. What are you talking about? What are you complaining about, Macaulay Culkin?
yeah.
He just didn't make breakfasts that they would actually want to eat.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. He's not totally irresponsible. He's just not with it with the kids.
Right. So actually there is a plot line with a character arc,
Mhm.
but I think I'm going to put this in the same category as other comedies we've talked about where we don't necessarily want to spoil all of the best bits of the movie. What are we,
Right.
a 2024 trailer?
Yeah.
uh, so a couple of highlights are it is basically like he and Tia are the main characters, and it's
Mhm.
their contentious relationship that drives the plot. Like he's trying to keep her from making a mistake and hooking up with this Weasley guy at school.
Yeah. And yeah, and she's kind of sabotaging him at in every possible way she can, like bad mouthing him to the parents, and trying to, yeah, just doing bad stuff to him. Yeah, making his life very hard.
Yeah. And the movie is about, will they or won't they reconcile? Will they eventually come to see each other's point of view? Uh,
Right.
will Will Uncle Buck manage to grow up a bit? There's some nice quiet moments in this movie. Like at one point, he's sitting there with the dog late at night drinking, and he said, you know, people used to tell me, Buck, you're so lucky, no job, no wife, no house. You know what? People don't tell me that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, to go back to John Hughes, I've said this before about him, but I'll repeat it. He was one of the greatest storytellers in the history of Hollywood. Um, the way he could craft a narrative, like having comedic moments with flawed characters, but then giving them character arcs and having moments of uh, heartfelt, moments with them. He was a master at that.
And it's also really interesting because a lot of the scenes, you could probably chop most scenes of this movie out of context, show them to somebody, and they would still make sense without knowing anything that was going on.
Yeah, yeah,
Like one scene I'll highlight, which is one of the great ones, is when John Candy ends up going to visit one of the, or I should say Buck. He is a character after all.
yeah.
Buck ends up going to the school of one of the kids because I think it was their just regular parent teacher conference.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the teacher says, oh, the little daughter doesn't take her school career seriously. She's a daydreamer and silly head. He basically lays into her. I don't want to be the 6-year-old who takes their school career seriously.
Yeah.
All kids are like that until wrinkled up old hags like you drive it out of them.
Yeah. 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 I love that scene.
Yeah. I think that part of what made this movie great is that John Candy's character is like so in Summer Rental he was like a professional who was just stretched in too many directions.
Yeah.
This is like this is like how a lot of people wish they could be, and it kind of shows you why you shouldn't be like that. But
Yeah.
it's also like because he doesn't have a job he has to worry about. It's like he can get away with saying and doing whatever the heck he feels like.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like he's like the dad who wishes they could talk back to the principal at their girls' school.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, this is just a masterpiece of American comedy. It's I don't want to live, or excuse me, I'm glad we don't live in the world where this was Danny DeVito and Uncle Buck.
Yeah. Yeah. It probably would have bombed if it had been him.
Yeah, like it would not have been the first movie that was relying on Danny DeVito as a likable family man character to bomb. Cough, cough, deck the halls.
Yeah.
That is not a good movie, and we are not reviewing it.
Yeah. No.
My family likes it for some reason, so I've seen it several
Oh.
times. But
uh,
you should run out and see this movie. Now,
yeah.
it's leaving Netflix at the end of September, which is why we moved it up our review schedule.
Yes.
Let's hear what the studio did this one.
I want to say it was Universal.
Let's see here. John Hughes. Hughes Entertainment. How helpful. Yeah, Universal Pictures.
Yeah.
So probably this is going to end up back on Peacock in the near future,
Yeah.
because that's the usual. Uh, if it isn't there, this is also a candidate for it. Could also end up on Tubi. So yeah, just keep an eye out for it.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And real quick bit of trivia. There's a scene in the movie where Macaulay Culkin is talking to Buck's girlfriend through the mail slot on the house.
Mhm.
He's sitting down in a chair. And that scene right there was what gave John Hughes the idea for Home Alone.
Yes, this movie has an even bigger legacy than in just being an awesome movie on its own.
Indeed, yes.
Oh, what's also interesting about this movie, it is just how quickly it came out. It was filmed, had its theatrical run, and came to home video all within 1989.
Wow. Yeah, doesn't surprise me. I mean, I don't the budget for this movie couldn't have been that high.
It it isn't listed on Wikipedia, but yeah, like if John Candy's salary wasn't the biggest part of the budget, I will be shocked.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think we've said all we need to say for tonight.
Indeed. And